This Raptors-Timberwolves trade is centered around Pascal Siakam. The Toronto Raptors have been one of the better teams in the NBA for close to a decade, but things have seemed to start to trend downwards over the last year or so. After they won their first championship in team history in 2019, Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green both departed Toronto, then the likes of Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka and others left last offseason. Still, the Raptors were left with Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby and others to try and remain a threat in the Eastern Conference, but injuries and healthy protocols seemed to end their season before it began. Toronto finished the 2020-2021 season with a 27-45 record, their worst since the 2011-2012 season when they went 23-43. Now, after holding onto Kyle Lowry at the trade deadline and deciding not to trade him, the Raptors find themselves without their leader as he went to the Miami Heat via a sign and trade earlier this month. The Raptors did bring back Gary Trent Jr. and Khem Birch, but overall, there are a lot of questions being asked about the future of this franchise. The Raptors could still end up being a solid team in the Eastern Conference with VanVleet and Siakam leading them, but overall, these two guys are great secondary talents and are not primary, perennial all-star talents like Lowry was. As a result, could Toronto take this opportunity now to rebuild quickly and make themselves a championship contender once again? Pascal Siakam's name has come up a lot in NBA trade rumors over the last few weeks, and while the Kings seem to be a team in love with the idea of adding him via a trade, the Minnesota Timberwolves are definitely a team to keep an eye on. Minnesota wants to add more talent and they feel that they are one piece away from being a special team in the Western Conference, so pursuing Siakam should he become available could end up being that final move the T-Wolves need to make. Trading for Siakam would not be cheap for the Minnesota Timberwolves to do, but they do have the young assets and some draft picks that they could include in a deal for the Toronto Raptors forward. Let's take a look at what the hypothetical deal could wind up looking like. Minnesota Timberwolves receive Pascal Siakam. Toronto Raptors received Jaden McDaniels, Jarrett Culver, Leandro Bolmaro, rights to min 2022 second-round pick, was 2022 second-round pick, min 2023 first-round pick, top 8 protected. The Minnesota Timberwolves absolutely love the potential of Jaden McDaniels and they feel that he can be a key aspect of their team for many years to come, but they would likely have to be willing to move on from him should they pursue Pascal Siakam. After being drafted 28th overall last year, McDaniels put together a really solid rookie season, averaging 6.8 points, 3.7 rebounds and shooting 44.7% from the floor, 36.4% from deep. Seeing as he was splitting minutes with Jared Vanderbilt, Juancho Hernangomez, Naz Reid and others, this was a really solid showing for the young forward last season and the Timberwolves are expecting big things from him in year 2, especially after he has been one of the best performers out of all 30 teams participating in Las Vegas Summer League this summer. Aside from McDaniels, the Timberwolves would likely have to part ways with two other young pieces in Jarrett Culver, the number 6 pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, and the rights to Leandro Bolmaro, the number 23 pick in the 2020 NBA Draft. Culver has not really been anything special in Minnesota these last 2 seasons due to numerous injuries, and Bolmaro is an Argentinian shooter who is expected to join the NBA ranks within the next season or so. There is no denying that the Toronto Raptors would be getting a ton of young assets to build with for the future should they look to trade Pascal Siakam, but nobody really knows what team president Masai Ujiri is thinking in terms of what the future holds. This will be something to watch in NBA trade rumors going forward. Toronto could definitely wind up holding onto Siakam and not look to move him at all right now, but at first glance, the Raptors roster does not look like they are in any shape to continue contending for a title. They need to be willing to make some kind of a big move, which is why they could look to add more overall assets to their team by leveraging their best talent in Pascal Siakam. Does this trade make sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves? With D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns all healthy and on the court together, the Timberwolves could definitely be one of the most improved teams during the 2021-2022 season, but they still seem like they are a piece or two away from being true threats in the Western Conference. For years now, this Timberwolves franchise has been one of the laughingstocks of the league simply because they have made the playoffs just once since the start of the 2004-2005 season, and they have finished with a winning record just twice in this same time span. They have had a lot of really solid players on their roster over the years, but Minnesota has not been known to make a lot of right decisions. Trading for Pascal Siakam would cost the Timberwolves and push them over the tax threshold, but this would be a highly beneficial decision for them to make as a franchise. Karl Anthony Towns is a year-by-year all-star caliber player, and D'Angelo Russell is also a high-level talent, but this team still needs that other high-level talent. Anthony Edwards is only going to continue to get better, so he could fill that void, but why not trade for Pascal Siakam if he is available in trade talks? Jarrett Culver, Leandro Bolmaro and Jaden McDaniels are all young talents with potential, but none of these three guys have what it takes to be it factors for this team right now. These three young talents do not have the capability to help bring the Timberwolves to the playoffs, which is why they should be expendable in a trade for Pascal Siakam, a guy who can absolutely help bring Minnesota back to the playoffs. Pascal Siakam is not a guy you look at in this league as a perennial all-star, but he is definitely one of the better, number 2 options a team can have. With the Timberwolves already having Towns, Edwards and Russell, adding Siakam would give them even more overall talent and a means to form a very strong, all-star caliber core. Does this trade make sense for the Toronto Raptors? The biggest question the Raptors need to answer rather quickly is what direction are they heading in as a franchise? Losing Kyle Lowry takes this team out of title contention right now, and while they could be a playoff team with their current roster, it is hard to imagine that they would be anything more than a first-round playoff team with the likes of the Nets, 76ers, Bucks and Heat now running things in the Eastern Conference. Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam are both great, all-star caliber players, but neither one of these guys have what it takes to be an alpha in this league. They are not viewed the same as guys like Damian Lillard, Trae Young, Bradley Beal and even Kyle Lowry, their now former teammate. Unless Toronto is able to add another star-level player to their roster, it is hard to imagine that they are going to be anything special, which is why trading Siakam or VanVleet could be coming near the trade deadline this upcoming season. The Raptors could absolutely become a real threat with their young talents in time, but ultimately, the value they could get from trading a guy like Siakam could be too much to decline. Jaden McDaniels is a terrific young talent that is only going to get better, and standing 6 feet 9 inches with a 7-foot wingspan, he already has more potential than a guy like Siakam has. Not to mention, Bolmaro, Culver and the draft picks Toronto receives could all provide them with more young depth that they need. If Siakam becomes available in trade discussions, then this is definitely a trade that Toronto should take a long look at. It is hard to imagine that they would be able to receive a guy with McDaniels' potential from another team, and they would be getting a fair amount of draft capital from Minnesota, which is why the Raptors would be smart to consider this deal. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.